Well, today on the Locked On Predators podcast, what's up with the Preds opening games in Prague? There are some question marks about it after the Chechen government tells the NHL Russian players won't be allowed to play. That affects Yakov Trenin and a couple other players on the Sharks as well. We'll dive into what both teams are saying about it and what we think of the whole situation. Plus, happier note, Pekka Rinne back with the Nashville Predators. We will pay tribute to that. And a couple of interesting tidbits as EA Sports releases their ratings for next season's rosters that involve the Nashville Predators. Some of these ratings you kind of have to see to believe. We'll talk about it today in the Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day, and happy Friday to one and all. Thank God. Yes. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer and editor at ontheforecheck.com, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at InsideThePreds.com.
Also want to mention today's show brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. Bet Online, where the game starts. Yeah, interesting things to talk about this Friday in the world of Preds. Hey, Pekka Rinne is back. And not only did he accept a new job yesterday, or the new job was announced, but he was actually on the ice. So looking forward to talking about that and some wackiness with EA Sports ratings. This is kind of my favorite time of year to see who gets mad at all of these things.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. What would your rating be, Ann?
Of which of what in particular?
They're like, okay,
of
let me
their
say this.
ratings.
What do you think your strongest stat?
My personal strongest
stat?
Yeah,
like on NHL 23. Like what would your strongest stat be?
Probably like defensive Matt Duchene.
Yeah.
Like that would be my strongest stat. Like I would be top.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What would you be? Would you be like, see, I'm not going to make it for like fastest or anything like that. Like I know who I am.
Yeah.
I know who I am.
Oh, there's like aggression. Like that's always one.
That's okay.
Yeah, because I feel like I come in hot with some of these takes or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Awareness maybe, because I always know what everybody should be doing on the ice at all times.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, that is why we have such good podcasts.
Fact.
So we'll talk about that in a little bit too, but first, let's get to a news item from yesterday. According to ESPN, the Chechen government has told the NHL that Russian players will not be allowed to play in the opening games in Prague, or at least they have told the NHL not to bring Russian players. They are not welcome. That, of course, affects the Nashville Predators and the San Jose Sharks because they are the two teams playing in the Prague games to open the season. And as it stands now, of course, the Predators have Yakov Trenin. For all we know, there could be, an Igor Afanasyev sighting. Don't think we'll see a Yaroslav Askarov sighting, but, it impacts that. San Jose Sharks have a couple of key Russians, too. And we'll talk about the team's reaction in just a little bit. But first, what's your thoughts on that, Ann?
It's one of those things where I get it, but so here's the thing. This is all in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which I understand that. And, earlier in the year, I know I follow a lot of para ice hockey. And so this was a thing at the Olympics. This was a thing, especially at the Paralympics with the Russian teams not being able to participate. And so on the one hand, of course, I understand the spirit behind it. My problem with it is there's a big difference, and I think you have to be wise enough to differentiate between a Russian sponsored team and a player who was born in Russia, who has been involved in an organization and a franchise that is not a Russian sponsored franchise. Yakov Trenin, relatively new, to being a full-time regular Nashville Predator, but this is a young man that's been in the system for a while. Like this is not somebody we're trying to sneak in. This is not, we didn't go out and recruit him, just so that we could punch San Jose in the face in Prague.
Yeah.
So when it becomes a thing where you start to pull out individuals from a franchise or an organization that is not anything to do with that, and somebody who has been a part of this organization for a long time, I think you're really, really starting to miss the spirit of what you're trying to accomplish with this in the first place. It becomes a little bit of overkill, and it's just one of those things where I'm like, a little bit of wisdom here. Like, Yakov Trenin has been with the Predators organization for quite a while. We're not trying to sneak anything past anybody.
Yeah.
So it feels a little like you're missing, I get the letter of the law, but you're missing the spirit of it.
Yeah.
What about you? What are your thoughts?
I'm trying to find the exact the exact wordage that the Prague used, and it just said I guess it's not welcome, and then I think the wordage was, and I found it here, it was just they have asked that nobody in the Schmergen zone, or the Schengen zone, which is basically the continental Europe, has asked that they not issue visas to Russian players to enter Czechia. So it's kind of like, almost like a full travel ban at this point. I think you summed it up best, where I think there needs to be a distinction between Russian sponsored teams or players competing under the Russian flag, like you see in the Olympics. Of course, Russian athletes were allowed, they just had to, fly under the IOC or independent flag. And there's, a reason for that. And just like, there's been, a few national teams like Sweden that have said like, hey, if anybody's playing in the KHL, you're going to be banned from, Swedish, sanctioned activities or Swedish sanctioned camps or leagues. And there's a reason for that, because the KHL is, heavily Russian government funded. This isn't that. And this, I think, is a case of sort of generalizing. And I want to be careful, because there are a lot of strong opinions about this. And, I think you look online, and there's a lot of people that are saying it's like, oh, like Mike Greer is, missing the point for saying, oh, we as a team and not go and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think it's that simple. But I will say this, we as a society, and this isn't just an American thing, this isn't just a European thing, we tend to generalize, and we tend to punish individuals on the sense of where they happen to be from, like what country they were born in. And this is very much, the banning Russians from, coming and playing in a thing because, because they happen to be from Russia. It sort of, has the same vibe of, oh, you're from the Middle East? Well, there's a lot of, radicals in the Middle East. So I'm sorry, we're going to have to put a travel ban on you.
Right.
And I say that as hyperbole, because I know they are two very, very different situations. There's, a big difference between not being able to play a hockey game and, becoming a refugee because no country will take you in. I want to, get that out of the way.
Right.
Just, because I understand they're two very different things, but I do think it's that same sort of vibe, that same sort of sentiment, where we're punishing you because of the nationality you are. And for somebody like Yakov Trenin, who he's been in the USA for since 2017, something like that was when he first kind of started playing for Milwaukee. So it's not like, this is a guy who's like, just played in the KHL and his, dad's like a Russian mobster who's Putin's friend, or he is not Alexander Ovechkin that's doing all this pro-Putin PSA in the past. Like, it's just some Russian guy. And that's the same for San Jose's players. They have Evgeny Svechnikov and Alexander Barbanov. They're just two Russian guys. Like, what's the big deal about having them in the country? They're not flying under the Russian flag. They're wearing the colors of a saber-toothed tiger and a shark on their shirt. It's not like they're competing for a Russian flag. It's not like soccer where it's like Yakov Trenin's going to score a goal, like climb into the stands and start like waving a Russian flag in front of the crowd. Like that's not going to happen. So I think cooler heads need to prevail. And, for what it's worth, the Preds did put out a statement to Alex Doherty that said, we don't anticipate any problems. Mike Greer, the Sharks GM, and, Logan Couture, their captain, both kind of said the same thing. It's like, look, it's with, we're probably all going to go as a team, or none of us are going to go. So I think this is a situation, and where cooler heads are going to prevail. And I think this is going to be a situation where Russian players wind up playing. It's just one of those things. And, I'm sorry, I just kind of wanted to finish this point. But I think it's just the sentiment of, let's take a step back and separate person from where they're born.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think that it puts to try to push this point, if the, Czech Republic's foreign minister wants to push this point, I think that it puts the Predators and the Sharks in a situation where this is the opening game of the season. And look, this whole topic is clearly about something so much bigger than sports and than hockey. And we understand that. But if I were the Sharks or the Predators, I would be very tempted. These are two regular season games. These are games that have to do with your record, with your, your ranking, all of that kind of stuff. And it's just two games and it's early in the season. But Yakov Trenin is a important piece in the Predators. And so I think you have to be careful pushing this letter of the law, because it may not be worth it in the end for these teams. And again, I understand the spirit of it. I think you just have to apply wisdom when you are, kind of pushing the walking it out. Just, you got to apply some wisdom.
Yeah. And I think I think we need to separate. And like I said, it would impact the Preds a little bit more than it would impact the Sharks, because Yakov Trenin is kind of a more important player than, either than Barbanov or Svechnikov are for San Jose, I would imagine. So, I mean, this is going to be an interesting situation to see how it plays out the next couple of days. And again, I hope cooler Preds prevail, and I hope that Yakov Trenin is able to play in Prague, not only because he's a big piece, but I think because it's the right thing to do. Moving on from that, we're going to talk about happier stuff, including Pekka Rinne back with the Nashville Predators. One of our favorite things about that, plus get into some weird stuff with NHL 23 player ratings coming out from EA Sports. But before we do that, though, I want to mention today's show brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for football betting info this season. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, in-depth articles, analysis on pretty much every game on both the pro and college slate. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information. everything from live betting to up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. They just put out a bunch of futures for NHL. So if you want to take a gander at some of the early prop bets you can make, go ahead and check that out. They have more sports as well, everything from MLB, MMA, boxing, soccer, golf, you name it, they got it. Plenty of Vegas casino games you can entertain yourself with too. So head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. Well, the happier news that came out surrounding the Nashville Predators yesterday, and our boy is back in town. Pekka Rinne is rejoining the Nashville Predators in a, not an an official coaching role, more of as an advisory role, but he's back and he is officially on the team payroll. And as we saw from pictures at camp yesterday, he is on the ice with the Nashville Predators.
Yes. Doesn't everything just feel better in Nashville? Like, you woke up yesterday, the birds were singing a little bit louder, the sun was shining a little bit brighter. Friends, Pekka Rinne is back. And I love this role. I'm not terribly surprised by it, just because Pekka Rinne is so much the DNA of this franchise. And this is such a great role, I think, for both parties, because Pekka's coming in. He is, I think it's called like a Special Alumni
Advisor.
How about that? So, so he's a Special Alumni Advisor, and he's going to be doing a little bit of a couple of things. So, going to be doing some community, liaison ambassador things for the franchise, which I think is fantastic, because Pekka has been so involved in the community. He's been such a wonderful face for the franchise. You could not create a better person to sort of be the face of a franchise than Pekka Rinne, because he is goodness and light, my friends. But he also, and I love this part of it too. So when he was in Finland, he was the goalie coach for the U20 Finnish team. And so he's coming and he's kind of shadowing Ben Vanderklok and the goalie coaching staff, working a little bit with the goaltenders, kind of, just kind of in that realm. And I love this, because this is somebody who has a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge with the position, but also I think it's really different to play a position and to coach a position. And so what a great opportunity for Pekka Rinne to get to come in, and not only does he get to kind of give some wisdom with knowledge, but he also is going to be equipping himself to go on and do some more coaching too. So I just think this is brilliant. I love this move by the Predators, and of course, everybody's happy to have Pekka back. Come on,
yeah, for sure. It said that he's going to be. I think the word the press release used was shadowing the Preds goaltender coach Ben Vanderklok and a couple of their developmental goaltending coaches. So it'll be interesting for him to kind of get he was the goalie coach in Finland last year, but kind of see how NHL does it and kind of see how they maybe treat different goaltenders in the system. Like, how do you coach UC Saros versus how do you coach somebody like Thomas Vermachka?
Right.
So that's something for maybe him, because, obviously in his career, he only knows interactions from his point of view, whether it's with Vanderklok or Mitch Korn. So that's something for him to kind of be on the outside looking in, and that'll certainly help him with his career. And if you're the Nashville Predators and you're a young player coming up through the system, how cool is it to look over there and Pekka Rinne's there, just on the ice, watching your game, maybe giving you some advice. I think that's huge.
Yeah, it is. I think it's amazing for the goaltenders in the system. I'm like, there's a part of me yesterday, my first thought was like, did they sing Peaches and Herb when UC Saros and Pekka Rinne's eyes met for the first time? Like, thank goodness that we have that bromance back.
Okay, but what is Peaches and Herb? Because you use this in a.
They sing that reunited and it feels so good.
Wait, is the name of the song Peaches and Herb, or is it
that's the people that sing it?
Oh, Pete! Wow, I would.
Didn't you know
not
that?
know that? No.
Well,
I was
sadly.
thinking it was like you were referencing like an Outcast song or something like that.
I don't even know who Outcast is. Who is it? Is
What?
Outcast? I know.
Do
I
not
know.
let Brian Baston hear that.
I know. Yeah, but I was going to say, does Brian Baston know every Barry Manilow song like I do? And the answer to
Yeah.
that is probably yes.
I
Yes,
couldn't tell
yes, he
you.
does.
No, I know Copacabana.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. See, now look, I could mock you for not knowing the brilliance that is Barry Manilow, but here I sit in silent judgment.
Okay.
Silent judgment, Nick.
Well,
It's our
my
friend on the
judgment of not
podcast.
knowing Outcast was very
Don't.
vocal.
Well, you also didn't know Peaches and Herbs, so there's a whole thing. Like
I knew this song, I just didn't know it was somebody like Peaches and Herb.
Peaches and Herb, baby.
What name? God,
I
like,
know. I know.
What a dumb name for like an R&B group.
I know, but it worked. I mean, they have a great hit. But don't you think? I mean, like seriously, when even in Finland, first of all, even in Finland, they know Peaches and Herb, I'm sure. But don't you think they just had that moment? Don't you just think that they had
There's
that
like
just
stars running and like fluttering in the sky?
I know, like all of a sudden, like a meadow grew up on the ice, and they were like slow motion, like running to each other. That's 100% how it happened, friends.
It's like a platonic version of The Notebook, where it's just pouring down rain inside Centennial Sportsplex, and then and it's just it's what's the Finnish phrase for "I wrote you every day" or
or like you complete me, or I would love. We need to do a whole podcast on like famous movie lines and how they fit into the hockey world. Let's table that for
that's a fun Friday idea.
I'm feeling that fun Friday idea for sure. Yeah.
You know what I want to see? I would love to see like a family picture with those two and Askarov.
Oh my gosh.
That's like I picture like UC Saros taking Askarov to meet Pekka Rinne, like you taking your new puppy for the first time. Like it's just tails wagging the whole time. He's just like jumping up and then has to run around and sniff the house. And so
wouldn't that be so great?
Yeah. I picture Yaroslav Askarov just like jumping up to offer Rinne like 50 hugs and then just skating in circles really fast, maybe bringing him his blocker to show.
Oh my gosh, I'm loving this.
Yeah, Pekka just like throws a goalie stick and Askarov just chases it down, brings it back, does like a jumping catch in the air in mid-ice to like get it.
I'm telling you, first of all, how lucky is Nashville that we had Pekka Rinne? How lucky is Nashville that we had Pekka Rinne? How lucky is Nashville that after Pekka Rinne came UC Saros?
Yeah.
And then how lucky is Nashville that we had sports, competitive athletics, England? Yeah. Like that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh, okay. And cannot wait to break that whole thing down too.
That's a whole nother podcast, and I'm sure Kevin Lankinen is going to be delightful in his own unique way. And then you've got Yaroslav Askarov. Like, could there be any more fun people in any other goaltending room in the NHL? The answer, my friends, is a scientific fact. No, just no.
That is a definitive statement. Hey, speaking of science, we know EA Sports doesn't exactly use an exact science when they come out with their player ratings, but they have a few things out for the Nashville Predators, and they're a little weird. Let's just say it like that. So we'll talk about that in just a second.
Yeah, we're gonna jump on that bandwagon because we have some things to say. But first, want to thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen every day. We are back 5 days a week. We are here for the kickoff of the season, preseason games, everything. We're going to have you covered with training camp this week as well. If you get done listening to Locked On Predators and you're like, hey, how are some of these other teams doing at training camp? You need to go check out Locked On NHL. It is a daily 30-minute podcast with your hosts who bring on experts from across the NHL to talk about what's going on in all of the different divisions, the Eastern Conference, everything that you need to know about the NHL. You can find out at Locked On NHL. It is your daily 30-minute NHL podcast.
All right, Ann. So NHL is putting out some of their EA Sports ratings for the new NHL 23 video game. They have a couple of things they've announced so far is just ratings wise, some of the highest rated players in the league. Speed they've put out, the top defensemen, the top forwards, all that good stuff, strength. And we do have an early look at some Preds ratings. Yeah, it's something. Let's
Isn't
start
it
with the
though?
things that make sense. So Roman
Okay.
Josi has a 93 overall rating.
Hmm.
Number one left defenseman in the entire video game,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
Second overall defenseman behind Cale Makar, who's a 94, which sure, yeah,
I mean, if you want to.
yeah, why not? And then I think the other big one we got was Philip Forsberg, who is
Hmm.
a 89 overall, which puts him as the same ratings tier as Gabe Landeskog, which is fine. The one thing I was like that I saw from Forsberg that I was like, is Kyle Connor was a 90, so they had him one rating point behind Kyle Connor. Which I don't know if I agree with that, but hey, like
No.
Philip Forsberg, one of the top 10 left wings in the entire game.
Which,
Sure,
as well, he should be. Thank you.
yeah.
Yes.
We can talk about the Kyle Connor thing in a little bit. But I mean, I look at the other names ahead of him. There's like Huberdeau, Panarin, Ovi, Marchand, Kaprizov, Gaudreau, Kachuk, and then Kyle Connor. And I look at that list and it's like, yeah, okay. Like not too bad. Like Roman Josi should definitely be like one of the top. Philip Forsberg is up there.
Right.
Sure. All right.
Sure.
Here's where it gets weird.
Oh, yeah.
So EA Sports put out the top 10 fastest players from all positions in the entire NHL. They had McDavid 1, Cale Makar 2, McKinnon's up there, Dylan Larkin's up there. Coming in at number 6, Matt Duchene.
Now look.
With a 93 speed, which makes him the fastest Predator, which I don't think that's true.
I don't
I
either.
also don't think he's the 6th fastest person in the entire NHL either.
Now look, we just talked about this earlier in the episode. Like, I am like a 98 ranking when it comes to defense of Matt Duchene in EA Sports. But I will say this, like, okay, but
I mean, sure, but
okay.
well,
I
here's the
mean,
question: is he even the fastest Predator?
I don't think so. Do you?
No, I
I
mean,
don't think so.
I would say what Roman Yosi's got pretty good speed.
He does. I think
Uh,
Forsberg.
Alex Carrier.
Yeah, maybe. Now, see, we just need to line them up at training camp. Be like, could we just settle something real quick?
Yeah.
If y'all could just take a quick
ooh,
lap.
Phil Tomasino.
Yes,
Like
actually, yeah.
he would have to be the
In his
fastest right now,
defense,
wouldn't
he's
you
also
think?
skating like 70 pounds less than anybody else, bless.
I mean, true, but I mean, Phil Kessel's a chunky boy, and he's also got some big speed too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When I think of speed on the Nashville Predators, I wouldn't say that Duchene is a name that comes to mind. When I think of speed in the NHL, and look, I will throw down about Matt Duchene's talent.
yeah,
But this is not necessarily the 6th name that would come to mind for speed in the NHL if I were, making a list.
yeah. He is tied speed wise with Dylan Larkin, who remember has the record for fastest lap in the fastest skater competition in the entire NHL All-Star Game history.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'm wondering as we look at this, and there's still another one that I find even more that we're going to talk about in a second. But I literally wonder, like, how much of this is we've got to spread some things around so that we pull in people who like other franchises. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, how much of this
Yeah.
is marketing and how much of this is actual we watch hockey?
Yeah, like I mean, if you're an Arizona Coyotes fan, are you gonna buy this game? Like, to play the character. You know, you're just gonna have like see if there's a way to have like I can't remember the guy's name on the team now. They're one good player. Oh, Clayton Keller.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
are you going to find a way to like have 5 Clayton Kellers on the ice at any one time and just give them all different names?
My son has concocted some pretty interesting teams on NHL. Like, I mean, pretty interesting teams. But let's talk about the one that we talked about before we started recording.
This
that
is
you
my
and I we just
favorite
needed a
one.
moment.
This is my favorite one.
Come on now.
Top 10 strongest players in the NHL. In a 5-way tie for first, Milan Lucic, yes, Jamie Alexiak, Tom Wilson,
Yeah.
and then Ovi and Victor Hedman. I would
Okay.
not disagree with any of that. Tied for 6th and onward with a 92 strength. The same level as Ryan Reeves, one of the toughest guys in the league, and Zach Kassian, one of the strongest guys in the league, Roman Josi, with coming in with a 92 strength. And I just have to ask, like, Roman Josi is one of the best players in the NHL, one of my favorite players of all time.
Yes.
92 strength seems like somebody has never watched a Roman Josi game before.
Like, if you were talking strength of jawline, 100% here for this vote.
I mean, he's tough to like knock off his skates and everything like that, but like I said, like to me, like put like Philip Forsberg, if he was 92 strength, that would make sense because I have seen that guy get like bombarded against the boards 4 times, not move, and still have the puck.
Right.
Roman Josi's not a 92 strength.
Well, he doesn't have to be because he's fast and he's good. So he doesn't have to be strong. But here's my thing.
The game.
I know if you look at the Nashville Predators roster, you know, just big picture roster, don't you feel like Tanner Jeannot could bench press Roman Josi multiple times?
That's the other person that's left off that list. Tanner Jeannot. There's so many players like around the league, like he does like CrossFit and everything like that. And like there's so many players like around the league that have been like, oh yeah, Tanner Jeannot, like I've seen him like work out and like what was it? I think it was like his junior team that he played for where he had all of these like records, like every record from like bench press, squat, deadlift were all Tanner Jeannot. Yeah. It's like it feels like that's the guy that would be like like knocking you off your feet.
Yeah, if you're looking Roman to Josi. Like if you're looking to like spread the wealth across the league in some of these rankings, like we have other players.
Yeah.
And how, I mean, and again, look, Roman Josi's a phenomenal player. And I'm not saying that he is a pipsqueak by any stretch of the imagination, but he does not have to be strong because he is good at other things. Tanner Jeannot, first of all, Tanner Jeannot probably doesn't have to be strong. I just think he likes it. Like, I just think that's how he likes to play the game. So the fact that Tanner Jeannot is not anywhere on that list, and then Roman Josi, like, Roman Josi is not like my boys used to call them when they played a lot of NFL, EA Sports NFL games. They would make all of their players offensive and defensive lineman size. They called them poofy guys.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know the position, so they called them poofy guys. I'm like, Roman Josi is not a poofy guy. Like, this is not who he is. It's not who he is.
No, he is not a poofy guy. My favorite thing is like looking at the list that the top 10 strongest like the NHL made for it. And it's like I picture there's like Ryan Reeves and Milan Lucic and Jamie Alexiak and then like Roman Josi. And like I picture like, you know, somebody like choosing like bodyguards and like walking past Milan Lucic, who's a big dude, and walking past Jamie Alexiak, who's like 6'7", and walking past Ryan Reeves, who a lot of people are saying is like the most feared guy in the league, and then just settling on like the happy-go-lucky, handsome Swiss guy in the nice suit and being like, that's the guy. If there was a bar fight, this is the guy that I would want in my corner.
Oh my gosh.
Sign me up for this guy. Like, this is the world beater right here.
Like, I so wish we could have been flies on the wall at that planning meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, really? You know, and again, no disrespect to Roman Josi. We're big fans. Like, love the guy, amazing talent. But
yeah, should have #1 handsome ratings in the league.
Oh my gosh. There really is no one else.
There really is no one else.
No one else.
Let us know what you think about the player rankings so far. Who are some other players that we missed that you would want to put out there? What you can do is tweet us at LO_Predators or leave a comment on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. Drop a note. Let us know what you think of the player ratings. And just give us your overall thoughts on that. Good times.
Good times.
And, until we get some feedback, where can the fine people find your work?
You can find my work at InsideThePreds.com, and you can find me on Twitter at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
I'm Nick Morgan. You can find my work at ontheforecheck.com or follow me on Twitter at _NSMorgan. Happy Friday, everybody. That's going to do it for this week's slate of Locked on Predators podcast episodes. We will be back next week with new episodes. Until then, thanks for making us your first listen of the day and have a great weekend.